What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue here with our 2023 predictions. The Nebraska Cornhuskers are up next. Let's take a look at some of the other predictions for Nebraska. The FPI has them at 5.7 and 6.3. Athlon 6 and 6. The over/under is also at 6. I've also seen that number at a 6.5. So 6 and 6 seems to be about where everyone's expecting Nebraska to be. Perhaps again, some of those over/unders at 6.5 mean there's a chance this team could get to 7 and 5. This is a team that I think they're going to be decent. I mean, I look at Jeff Sims at quarterback. How good is he going to be? That's a big question. Run game should be good. Offensive line should be good. Wide receivers, do they have enough guys to step up? Enough playmakers there? Defensively, the defensive line doesn't look great to me, but you look at the linebackers, the secondary, they're very solid. So this, with the new head coach, Matt Rule, there are a lot of question marks, obviously, but I think he's not starting over. I think there's talent on this roster. This is going to be a pretty good team. I think they're actually going to be better than they were last year. So you look at the schedule, and there are a lot of games that could go either way. You look at Minnesota, Colorado, Illinois, maybe Northwestern, Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa. I mean, almost their whole schedule is that way. They're probably going to have a lot of close games, and it seems like it's that way every year with Nebraska. And they've had years where they just lost a lot of close games. So we'll see if Matt Rule can close the deal in some of these closer games. They start with Minnesota. So you're playing on a Thursday night on the road. First game for Matt Rule. Minnesota's an established program. It's going to be, a little bit of a contrast there. I think the teams are pretty even. I really feel like it's an even matchup. I don't think Minnesota's a whole lot better than Nebraska. Minnesota might be a tad better. They've got some new faces this year as well, but it's a pretty even matchup. But I mean, there's no reason to pick Nebraska here unless you think they're the better team, because the game's on the road, first game of the season, first year head coach. I think Minnesota wins this game, but I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a very competitive game. They play Colorado the next year, the next week, I should say. When we talk about Nebraska, and I just said how they're not starting over. They've got players on this roster. Colorado is starting over. This is like a totally new team, and I think it's going to take them some time to get things figured out. I really do. Talent-wise, I think it's a pretty even matchup. Colorado did do a nice job in the transfer portal, obviously. Depth-wise, Nebraska probably has the advantage there. But again, a lot of these Nebraska players, they've been there. They've got experience. I know it's a new head coach, but this is still a team that's been together for a while for the most part. And I think that's gonna bode well for them. I think the offensive line for Nebraska is an advantage. And I think Nebraska, the run game, it'll be enough. I think they're actually going to go on the road. I know it'll be a fired-up Colorado crowd. First home game, I believe, for Deion Sanders. But I think Nebraska is going to kind of ruin that. I think they're going to go on the road and win this game. Close game, competitive game, but give me the Cornhuskers. That's a tough one, though. I think it could really go either way. Looking forward to that matchup. After that, they play Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech. These are games in the past where you've had to worry about Nebraska winning under Scott Frost, but I think under Matt Rule, they're prepared, they're ready, and I think they're going to win these games. I think they beat both of them. Maybe not huge blowouts, but games that they should win by at least a couple of scores. Then they'll play Michigan on September 30th at home. If they beat Colorado and they're 3-1, they'll be really fired up for this one. The home crowd will come out, and they'll put everything they have into this game. I just think Michigan is too good. This Michigan team is going to be really good this year, and I just don't think Nebraska is going to be able to compete. I think Michigan will pull away in the second half and get a fairly easy win, and I think that'll drop Nebraska to 3-2. They play Illinois after that on the road. This is an Illinois team that is going to be pretty solid again this year. You look at the way they should be able to run the football. Nebraska, I think, going to lean on the run game. This will be a low-scoring, defensive-type game, in my opinion. But playing on the road, I think Illinois at home is going to have enough to get this win. I've got Illinois. Close one, but give me the Illini, and Nebraska then drops to 3-3. After that, they play Northwestern. And, we've talked about Northwestern being a team that's tough to predict. And it seems like years when they're going to be down, they wind up being good. When you think they're going to be good, they wind up being terrible. I don't know what to expect. I don't see this team being a whole lot different from last year, but I do think they'll be improved some. But playing at home, I think Nebraska is the better team. I think they take care of business here in a pretty close game. Gets them to 4-3. Then they play Purdue at home. I think Purdue is really going to take a step back. I've talked about that in other videos. I just don't think Purdue is going to be very good this year. Nebraska playing at home, no real reason to pick against the Cornhuskers. So I've got Nebraska winning this game, getting to 5-3. Then they'll play Michigan State on the road. Michigan State's a team that I don't know. I don't know what to expect from them. They were so much worse last year than I thought they would be. And then I looked at the roster and I see everyone coming back, and I thought maybe they're going to be improved this year. Then they lose their quarterback, and so I just don't know what to expect from Michigan State. But I don't think Nebraska would have a huge advantage in this game, and they're playing on the road. It's just one of those games where you flip a coin. I'm going to go with Michigan State. Playing at home, I think they get the win here. And again, that's one that could go either way, but also Colorado could go either way. So I think between Colorado and Michigan State, they probably split those two games. And then they'll play Maryland after that on November 11th, playing this one at home. Going to be an explosive offense, of course, with Tagovailoa there at Maryland. They've got some weapons on offense. Defensively, I think they're not going to be that great. Nebraska probably going to lean on the run game, and maybe that'll be enough to get the win here. But I'm going to go with Maryland just because of their explosiveness on offense. I think they get the win. But this is another game that could easily go the other way. Again, it's another tough prediction, and that's the way it is with Nebraska. It seems like every year, a lot of close games, and I think that's going to be the case, like I said. Wisconsin's up next on the 18th. Nebraska playing on the road against Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin, I've said this before, I think they're going to be the best team in the West this year. I think they're going to have it all. I think they're going to have the offense. I think they're going to have the defense. If they have a weakness, it's the secondary. Nebraska, I don't think, is going to be super explosive in the pass game. Everything plays into the hands of Wisconsin here in this game. Going with the Badgers, and that drops Nebraska to 5-6. They finish up with Iowa, a game that Nebraska is going to need to win to get to a bowl game. They beat Iowa last year, so the revenge factor is there for Iowa here. And, Iowa's so bad on offense last year, and I expect them to be better this year. But this is a Nebraska team that is, they're going to have a lot of things figured out by the end of the season. It's not going to be the same team as week one against Minnesota. Again, with the new coaching staff, some new faces on the roster. I think Nebraska, even though I do have them losing to Michigan State and Maryland, I still think they improve as the season goes. They're playing at home here. I think their defense will be good. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Really not a whole lot of points in this one, but I think Nebraska will make some plays. Jeff Sims, I think he really grows within this offense as the season progresses as well. And they make enough plays at home to pull off the win and beat Iowa for a second straight season and get to a bowl game. But this is really one of those teams where you can change these games around. I do think they'll be 6-6, but maybe they lose to Iowa and they beat Michigan State. Or maybe they beat Illinois and lose to Colorado. I mean, there are so many different ways it could go when you're expecting to have a lot of close games, and that's exactly what I expect for Nebraska. I think they find a way to win 6 of them, get to a bowl game, which is a pretty successful year in my opinion in year one under Matt Rule. So what do you guys think? What's your prediction for Nebraska? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.